welcome, and thank you so much for clicking on my video today. If you're new, welcome for the first time, and if you're back, welcome back. I'm so happy you're here. Sorry if the traffic is kind of loud outside. It just is the way that it is where I live. But basically, I just wanted to pop in here really quick because originally I thought this video would be one long video, and then I decided to make it 2 videos, and then I didn't film an intro. So this is me filming an intro. Hi. Basically, this is part 2 of a 2-part video of a DIY alternative fashion thrift haul that I did, and part 1 was like the haul itself and showing just like the finished product of like how I DIY'd it, and this video is going to be much more about how like the specifics of how I made each item, so I will have timestamps below for where everything is, and I'm going to be using a sewing machine a lot in this video because I just have been, and it's like really nice and really fun, and I just want to say that like obviously not everyone has access to a sewing machine, so hand sewing is totally an option. There's tons of tutorials online to show how to hand sew, and also lots of there is also a tutorial that I made about hand sewing on my other DIY alt fashion video that I can link in the description if y'all are interested in checking out. But also, if you guys want me to do a sewing machine tutorial, just like the basics of sewing machines, let me know because I'm totally open to do that. I need to show you guys this shirt that my coworker gave me. I freaking love it so much. I normally don't wear shirts and items that have like rhinestones on them, but I will absolutely 1,100% make an exception for this because this is incredible and I love it. I've already worn it to work and I feel super cool in it, so thank you, Aiko. You're the best. This is the coworker that I made the cat doll for, so it was cool. Anyway, but otherwise, let's just get into the DIYs, and I hope you enjoyed this video. First one is, of course, the black corduroy skirt. I'll show the process of that and also me like modeling it and these other things, but I'm really happy with this. So what I'm doing to make the patches is I'm taking an old pair of my boyfriend's jeans that are just beyond repair and tracing the rough design of what I want to put on the patches with a piece of chalk. I don't have the patience to make the design like super exact, so I just do like kind of a really basic idea of it and then use the paintbrush eventually to get the details in there. I recommend having a couple different sizes of paintbrushes because if you have just one small one, it can be good for the details, but then it's going to be a pain when you're trying to fill in a big amount of space. It can also be helpful to use a big paintbrush to do like all the rough details and then just go in with the little one after. I'm just using acrylic paint on these guys from the dollar store, and you can totally use fabric paint or mix your paint with fabric conditioner to make it not be as prone to chipping and like possibly coming off in the wash. I always get questions about like how do you keep the paint on when you're trying to wash your clothes and stuff like that, and the thing is, you know, to an extent, if you're using acrylic paint, it's gonna chip and it's kind of unavoidable, and what I do is I just don't mind patching it up every couple weeks, or not weeks, oh my god, every couple months, every 6 months, let's say, I'll have like a patch refresher, and I don't mind it. But if you really are averse to that, I would recommend investing in some fabric paint. If you're going to be making your own patches, it's just gonna last you way longer. For this Witches Unite patch, I'm really excited about it. What I ended up doing was using a jar, like a little spice jar, to make 5 circles that'll be moons, roughly fill in different phases of the moon. And you know, sometimes it takes a couple of tries to get your spelling right and stuff, but a thing that I really recommend is to either have a picture that you're looking at of what you're trying to spell or to do it with chalk, because for me personally, like when I'm painting, sometimes I don't look at the actual letters, I'm just looking at the shapes, so it's really easy to forget a letter or to misspell something if you don't have like a guide, which is why I really recommend you know, using some chalk or something there, just from the dollar store or whatever. I'm also just adding little details by doing like little dots and stars. You can get creative, do stripes, stars, whatever. Then I'm doing a Cinema Strange patch. The biggest thing with patches about band names is I would recommend doing like pick bands whose logos are either really messy or really simple. Don't try to go for the super exact stuff because it's way harder to do in a satisfying way. But like with Cinema Strange, their logo is very like spooky and pointy, but it's also, if you do it messy, it doesn't like look that bad or that different. And I think that the biggest tip I have for painting band logos is, instead of looking at the letters as letters, just look at them as shapes, and look at like the relative size of the letters to one another as a guide. Like usually I just pull up a picture on my laptop and just look up at it and reference it after I've done like the rough sketch, and just like keep making sure that it, you know, is looking accurate. And I often like to do several layers of paint, like 2 or 3 usually gets it nice and thick enough to my liking, but you can totally experiment with that. But after just 1 layer, it's usually not enough in my opinion. Same with Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains. I love this band, but another reason that I chose their logo to do is because it's a very messy kind of spray paint looking logo that is intentionally not exact, and therefore whatever I do, it doesn't have to look exact. It can kind of be messy and still get the point across. So yeah, highly recommend stuff like that. You also don't have to just make band patches. You can totally make shapes or just slogans that you believe in. You can make pride flags. You can make pronoun patches. You know, whatever you want. Get creative. Look online for like patch ideas or, you know, punk patches. And if you're not confident in your painting skills, you can do really, really simple shapes like ghosts or alien heads or hearts. These things are not going to require you to have that much skill because it's pretty simple shapes. So you don't have to be like an amazing DIY artist or like have a ton of art skill to make patches. You can literally just like write things out with a paintbrush, or just like make little ghosts and little aliens and little hearts, and that's like just as good. You know, eyeballs are a great one, cat heads, any kind of animal head I think would be cool. Like symbols, you know, lots of bands have like a symbol in their logo or just a symbol that they're associated with, so you could always do those tend to be easy. On my little ghost patch, I'm just writing "Stay Spooky" in a little tiny paintbrush. This paintbrush, I ended up dipping the tip of it in a little bit of glue so it stays nice and pointy. I know that's like a cardinal sin, probably, but I think it really helps keep things exact. Wingnut Dishwashers Union was a hard one to do because they don't have like a super messy logo, but I find that adding, I think it's called serifs, like adding the little hats to the top of the letters can make your lettering look a lot more professional and a lot better very easily without that much skill if you just, you know, add the little like lines at the top and the bottom of your letters. The other thing that's exciting about that is that with fabric paint and even with acrylic paint, you can get like glow in the dark paint. You can get like lots of fun colors and neons. Paint from the dollar store is super cheap, and in the past I've had patches with glow in the dark paint and they're just like so exciting. And this is all the patches that I made. Some of them I'm saving for my denim jacket, leather jacket thing that I've talked about, but this is what the ones from this session turned out like. I'm pretty happy with them. So then the next step is that I put on the skirt and pin the patches in place until I'm happy with the placement. This honestly takes a couple of tries, honestly, and I do move things around, but my biggest tip when you're trying to decide patch placement is decide it while your clothes are on you, because if you do it while the clothing is lying flat and then you put it on, it can look way different and just it's a pain. So when I'm happy with it, then I just unbutton the skirt and put it on my sewing machine, and I just start sewing. And I'm using white thread because I thought it would look cool to have that contrast, and I'm using the zigzagging stitch because I think it looks really cool in punk rock, and that way it didn't have to be as exact as if I was doing like a straight across stitch. Lots of the patches I'm trying to keep the top open so they are pockets instead of just patches, which is something I'd highly recommend. If you're making your own packages, make them into pockets, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm like always collecting little things that I find outside, and it's handy to have patches or pockets to do that in. And if you don't have a sewing machine, you can totally sew by hand. With my patch pants, I did them all by hand, because with pants you can't really lay things flat across a sewing machine, and it's just easier to do it by hand. It is going to take longer, obviously. I felt like I was cheating when I was using my sewing machine, because I was like, this is too easy, this is getting done too fast. Like, I managed to sew all the patches on in an afternoon, and I was like, this doesn't feel fair. But it is an option. But like, if someone in your life, like a friend or an aunt or a parent or a sibling, has a sewing machine, oh my god, try to borrow it. If you guys want, I can totally do a sewing tutorial, if that's like a sewing machine tutorial. But this is how the skirt turned out. I think it looks super cute. You can see the before in the bottom left, and this is the after. If you've seen my first video, you've already seen this, but in case you haven't, this is the footage. Hey, how cute. I really like it. I'm happy with how it turned out. I'll let y'all know how it holds up over the next couple washes and such. With my Death Records t-shirt, I decided to splatter it with bleach. I tried a bleach like a tying method at first to try to make it have stripes, but it didn't work at all, so I ended up just splattering it. But the back of it kind of looks like fire almost, so I think that's super cool. For this t-shirt, I was originally trying to give it bleach stripes, but the way I did it didn't really work out, so it's folded up, but that doesn't really matter. You can ignore that, but I'm pouring bleach over it. Always wear gloves, make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, wear a mask, and then I'm undoing the folds that I did to see it, but it doesn't have enough bleach to my liking, so I'm laying it down and just sticking a bunch more bleach on it. I also found out that this t-shirt is a reference to a musical from like the 1970s, I think, and I'm super excited to check it out. I've looked for it online, haven't found it for free anywhere yet, but I'm sure I'll find it soon, and I'm super excited to watch it because I really love musicals, honestly. If y'all want, I could totally do a video about my favorite musicals, but I have very tacky taste. Either way, you can see that, like, since the t-shirt's already wet, the bleach that I'm putting on after the t-shirt's wet isn't as concentrated as the bleach that was on it when it was dry. So if you're going for like a less dramatic bleach color, I guess you could make your t-shirt wet before you bleach it. And then I'm just rinsing it out in the shower. Make sure you rinse it out really well, and then leave it out to dry. And then you can just wash it normally. In my experience, I just wash all my clothes in cold water on the gentle cycle, and I haven't had any issues with like bleach getting on other clothes once it's like dried, because it's like evaporated. And this is what it looks like. I just paired it with like a red plaid skirt and a velvety choker and a fishnet top, and a lacy choker and a fishnet top, and I think it looks really cute. Just like a nice big bleachy t-shirt. And like I said, the back kind of looks like flames almost, which I think just looks so freaking cool. And I think if you want to get that effect, make sure you are bleaching in like a wet area, like a bathtub or a shower. On the Led Zeppelin shirt, I also used bleach, but a different technique than on my Death Records shirt. So for this bleach t-shirt, I'm just taking some regular household bleach and putting a little bit of it in a cap, or in its own cap, and just splattering it kind of haphazardly on the bottom of the shirt. And then I poured a little bit of bleach into a spray bottle, and I used that to just spray around the bottom as well as on the top sleeve, and it's kind of folded over, which ended up making it have like a cool black stripe in the top. And it totally made me think that if you wanted to, you could totally make like a stencil before you bleach it and put down like a heart or like a star, like whatever you want in the middle of your shirt with a stencil, and then bleach it with a spray bottle, and then you would totally have a shape. So just a tip, if y'all want to do that, I think it would look really, really cool. This is how the t-shirt looked. I heard that if you wash it in really cold water after with no detergent, it makes it look more white. On denim anyway. I don't know if it works for t-shirts, but I think this turned out more white. I don't know if I washed it in cold water. Probably I wash everything in cold water, but this is how it turned out. I'm really happy with it. Yeah. I am wearing pants in this clip, by the way. It just looks like I'm not. This, I totally forgot to hit record when I was filming this one, but I just added a little bit of lace to the bottom of it. Nothing really special on this one, but I kind of liked it as is, so I just like added a little lace border. The next thing is this red velvet dress. from the thrift store. For the hemmed velvet dress, all I did was I took some lace that I got like in a big bundle at the thrift store and pinned it all along the base of the dress first, and then I just used my sewing machine and a straight stitch to just stitch it all the way across. I tried to do it on the like natural seam of the dress so it wasn't super obvious when I was wearing it, and I think it just added like such a nice little detail to it. I think you could do this to shirts, you could do this to jackets. You can get like big yards of lace at the thrift store, or if you don't have those in your area, the fabric store has tons of like lace by the yard. You can always check the discount section and the sale section for like really big pieces. Halloween is coming up and the fabric store just has the best stuff. I'm so excited to make a bunch of like really cool Halloween dresses and stuff. Anyway, then I wanted to take the original holes of the dress and put grommets in them, and I did have to sew the holes shut a little bit because they were a little wider than the grommets I was using. So if you have smaller grommets than you intend to fit, you can totally just sew the holes shut with like needle and thread. It's not a big deal. And I got these grommets from the fabric store. They're not very expensive. I'm just putting two of them together and then laying them over this little tool and then putting the pointy bit in and then hammering that shut. I'm sure that my neighbors are delighted with me and everyone loves to have me hammering on my clothes all day, but you know, I try to be discreet about it, and Tuna's of course the best helper in the world. Once I have all the grommets in, I'm using like this accent ribbon, which I ended up not liking, but I didn't film the part of me putting back in the regular ribbon. It looks good on the floor, but it looked really bad on me, I thought. So this is what the dress ended up looking like. I think it looks really cute. I'm really excited about it. You can see the before and after. And also, I decided to make just like a fancy choker. For the lace choker, I'm starting with just a piece of lace that I think I found at Walmart, weirdly, when I was back in university, and I just measure it around my neck to figure out what length I want it, and then cut it a little bit shorter than my neck actually is, because I'm going to make this cool lace-up back. So I'm taking these little jump rings that I think I just got from the craft store or the dollar store, maybe AliExpress, and I'm using a needle and thread to just sew 4 of them into each side. You don't have to do the jump ring thing. You could totally just make the piece of lace long enough so that you can tie it around in a ribbon on your neck, or like in a bow. But I thought it would be cool to have this little detail because I saw this picture of a choker with like a lace and ribbon kind of situation. I thought it was super cool. So I do 4 jump rings on both sides and sew them really well to make sure they're secure. And then once they're all in, I thread a piece of just like black satin ribbon from the craft store through it. It took me quite a couple tries to get it to lie well, so I'll just cut to the part where it's all in and good, and as you can see, that's what it looks like. I think it's really pretty. Just kind of looks like a corset but on your neck. So then I put it on to map out where I want to put the chains for it and the other accessories, and I'm starting with like a keychain ring essentially and deciding to put it in the center, and I'm just putting it on there with a little like necklace clip as a placeholder. And then I'm taking some chain that used to be my brother's because he was really into Warhammer when we were kids, had all this Warhammer stuff, so I have a bunch of his old chain, and I'm using some jump rings to just hold it in place to figure out how long I want it. Eventually I'll sew it in place, but right now I'm just kind of mapping out where everything is gonna live on the necklace and cutting them with just like scissors to size. And then with my needle and thread, I'm just sewing them on. If you're not confident with your sewing skills, honestly, you could just use jump rings and like open them up and then put them between the lace because lace is like big like that. But you could also make this kind of choker on like a belt that you've cut shorter or a piece of ribbon. You don't have to use lace if you don't like lace. This is just like one example of how to make a choker. And then I'm just sewing all those chains in place, and I also sewed the kind of key ring in place. I always like those chokers with like a big metal ring in the center, so I just used a key ring to kind of give that same vibe but for cheaper. And then I found this charm that was on a 99-cent earring, and it's a bat, so I'm just putting that on the center with a jump ring. And then I'm wearing the choker with the velvet dress just to show it off, and I think it looks super, super cute. With the No Class t-shirt, I ended up just shredding it a lot which I found super fun. I might attach some safety pins, we'll see.
For the shredded t-shirt, I'm using a piece of chalk to map out where I want to cut it first. You don't have to do this, I just find it helps do like more even lines, and you know, I've done it in the past where I don't use chalk and it just ends up being a little bit messier. And then I'm just using some scissors to create some slashes. I tried to use an X-Acto knife, but it did not work. So scissors are the way to go with this one, pals. And once all the slits are in, I like to kind of stretch out the t-shirt because it makes the edges of the cotton shirt like fold over itself a little bit. And I think that works out. I'm putting some slits up on each sides. Just using my scissors again to cut them. You don't have to do any specific cuts, but if you want to, you can do really cool designs. Like you can do like skeleton faces or like rib cagey things, and you can like feed the loops through each other. You can just look online for like ways to cut up your t-shirt, and there's like such huge amounts of inspiration if you're looking for it. But I'm just kind of doing a haphazard all over and making sure to like stretch out the t-shirt so that it gets all like nice and loose and kind of stringy looking. I'm putting some slits into the shoulders. I'm also cutting off the cuffs. I would have cut off the collar if I hadn't made like such close cuts to it, so I'm leaving the collar on this one. You could totally use cut off cuffs as like bracelets or something if you wanted to, but I'm cutting some slits up the sleeves on both sides, and I'm just kind of making up where I'm going to cut it as I go along. But you're also, if you want to keep like trying it on and making sure you like where it's going, I definitely recommend that. Instead of just like making a bunch of cuts and then trying it on, like make a couple and then try it on and then go from there, if you know what I mean. Or you could just like go all over, and that's super fun too. You could also use a needle to poke like really small holes in the fabric if that's what you're going for, instead of like the big slashes. And if you wanted to, you could also totally safety pin the slashes back together. That's like a really cool look. And then I'm pairing it with just like a shredded plaid skirt and some fishnets and like a big cool belt. And I like how it looks. I debated cutting the sleeves off and making it into like more of a muscle top, but I like the t-shirt look and I think it worked out.
With this shirt, I've always wanted a shirt that has like a pentagram in the front, and I know that it's pretty easy to DIY, so I decided to try doing that. So I attached some jewelry findings on different parts of it, and put a ribbon in to make it a pentagram, and then secured it, and I think it just adds a cool little extra edge, and I love that. Hi!
So then for my pentagram shirt, I'm starting by tracing the shape that I'm going to cut out, but I cut out a different shape because that's how things be sometimes. And then I'm just taking 5 jump rings and applying them or sewing them onto 5 spots of the shirt. I'm just using a needle and thread. I guess you could just cut holes in the shirt if you didn't want to sew jump rings on and thread the needle or thread the ribbon through those eventually. But I thought the jump rings would work pretty well. I'll see how well they hold up. I tried to do the knots like multiple times with the needle and thread, so it was pretty secure. And then it took me a couple of different tries to get the ribbon to thread through in a way that I liked. You know, making sure that it wasn't tangled or twisted and that it was going out the right end. But eventually I got it into a shape that I was pretty satisfied with. Just took a little bit of experimentation. And then to make sure that the shirt stayed in place, I had to put the shirt on inside out and then sew it in place while the pentagram was kind of held taut. This way it stays in that position without getting really baggy. You can see me wearing it here. I'm wearing the shirt with my patch pants that I've had since I was 16. Love these pants. I think the shirt turned out really good, and I'm overall really happy with how it turned out.
For the sandals, I attached a ribbon with a bunch of spikes, and I attached some D-rings that I had found and just had been collecting for a really long time because I collect random metal things and then they end up on my clothes eventually. And I also added some little ankle charms.
So for the custom sandals, I start by just wiping them down with an antiseptic wipe on both sides, and then I put a piece of ribbon over the toes where I want the spikes to go and kind of mark with a piece of chalk vaguely where I want all the spikes in the ribbon to be. Then I just use some little scissors to make some holes so I can poke through my studs. I got these studs online. I got a big pack of them, I think for about $8 of like 4 different colors of spikes, and you can get them on like AliExpress, or there's like some specialty stores that sell them online, but I highly recommend them if you're into like punk clothing and DIYs, because just one bag will last you a long time. Once I have all my spikes on where I would like them, I just use a little bit of hot glue to fold over the raw edges of the ribbon, and then use some super glue to apply the spike ribbon to the shoe, and then I use some clothespins to hold those in place while the super glue dries. Super glue is an okay choice. I would have used leather glue if that was a thing that I had access to. Obviously, you know, you can figure out what you can do with the materials you have. There's like shoe goo and stuff as well that I'm sure you could try, but I found that the super glue and the clothespins worked pretty good. Once it's set on there pretty well, I just remove all the clothespins, and I'm happy with how it stayed on. I've worn them out a couple of times, and so far so good. Then I take some D-rings, and I just use some embroidery thread and a really big needle, like an embroidery needle, to poke some straps, or poke some holes through the straps to secure the D-ring on there. If you want to buy these kinds of accessories online, you can get D-rings, which are the ones that are shaped like a D, or O-rings, which are the round ones. Both would look really, really cool, but I just recommend keeping bits and pieces of metal when you find them, and that way you have a big collection to draw from when you're trying to do DIYs and stuff. So I repeat that on both shoes and make sure that the thread is tied really securely on there. I guess you could glue them in place if you didn't want to sew them on, but I thought that sewing would be pretty secure. And then I'm just using my tweezers and some chains and some jump rings and little cross charms to make these little dangly bits for the shoes. I think it's just like a super cute little detail. I'm using these like mini safety pins and just attaching the bundle of chains and crosses and safety pins and stuff onto the loop that already exists on the shoe. And I did end up shortening them a little bit because they kept falling under my shoes when I was trying to walk, but I still think it's a really cute concept, just adding like little charms to your shoes. Other ways you can spice up your shoes is just like cool shoelaces, colorful ones, putting beads in the shoelaces, I don't know, fun stuff like that. This is how they look. I think they turned out really, really cute, and I'm very happy with them. And my favorite piece, this is the best one in my opinion. I just made this into the like punk princess dress that I've always wanted since I was like 13. Alright, so what I'm starting with is first I need a bunch of plaid patches, so I took a bunch of existing plaid skirts that I had and just cut out like a piece of the intersection that folds itself over, and then cut those into squares and then pin them to the dress. And here you can see me just sewing all the pieces onto the dress using my sewing machine, and it's just like so convenient, so easy. I love my sewing machine, honestly, and I got to sticker it up recently because I realized that it was really plain and boring, and then I was like, wait, I can put stickers on it, so it's really exciting. I definitely recommend, like I said before with the other patch item that I showed, to try to place the patches while you're wearing the item, because if you put them on while it's all just like laid out on a surface, it's not going to look maybe as you imagine it when you sew it all together. Once all the plaid patches are sewn on, I just cut off all the extra pieces of thread with a little pair of scissors, and then I trim all the long pieces of thread on the front of the dress. I did a lot of the patches being like layered over each other, and then some of them are pockets, and I just like them. So then I wanted to make the top of the dress have like a little corset, so I'm using some chalk and a chopstick to just measure out 4 spots on each side that I want the grommets that I'm going to put in to go, and I use a little pair of sewing scissors to cut open the spots where I marked with the chalk. And then I'm using some pretty large grommets. I got these to do a Draculaura cosplay. These were grommets that I used for the boots, but I had a bunch left over, so I used them in this project. Just attaching one grommet piece to the other, and then putting the little tool underneath it, and then using the other tool to hold it in place while I hammer it. And I just do this until all my grommets are in, and it took me quite a while to get the things strung properly, because it always takes me a while, so I just decided not to film that part for y'all, so you can just see. Here's what the grommets look like when it was complete, and here it is, ta-da, all beautiful and laced up. Then I decided to use some of the extra lace that I had left over from my other dress and pin it all around the base of this one to just be like a really fluffy, lacy layer all around the skirt. I thought this would just give it like a flirty little vibe. Oh god, that sounds stupid, but basically I'm just pinning it all around the base and then using my sewing machine and just like a straight stitch on the seam. I played with the idea of like putting it on the front, like putting the lace like showing or just like peeking out from underneath, and I ended up sewing it on the inside so it's just peeking out from underneath, and I think it looks pretty cute. I also toyed with the idea of like distressing the lace, and I might do that later, just like with a little pair of scissors or something, but either way, it's all sewn on. And then it's time to make some extra patches. So I'm taking the same pair of jeans that I used to make my other patches that I showed in this video, and I'm just using my chalk to design some little like slogans. This one says "Protect Trans Kids," and Tuna's being the best helper in the world as always. I love her. And you know, I think it's really important to have like positive messages about queer identities and stuff out there, because I didn't know that being non-binary was an option until I was in university, and like if I just had more education about this kind of stuff, I feel like my understanding myself would have been a lot easier. So this patch and messages like this one mean a lot to me, so I was happy to put it on this dress. The next patch I'm making says "Be Nice" or "Buzz Off," and this is inspired by this little like button that I have. I don't remember where I got it, but it says that, and it has a little bee on it, and it's super cute. And I just decided to do this one with like regular printing, but then I added little like serifs to all the letters to make it like a little more professional. And then as like a little extra detail, I did some little like buzzing bees with my paint, and I'm just using acrylic paint from the dollar store like with the other patches. It works out pretty well. Like I said, sometimes you have to refresh it, or like if you want it to stay on better, you might want to use fabric paint or mix acrylic paint with fabric conditioner. But for me, I don't mind if it like chips a little and if I have to like go back in. And I don't really like plan out where the bees are gonna go. I just kind of eyeball it and then put in some little flowers and whatever kind of details. You can get creative with just adding little details to your patches to make them look a little cool. This next patch says "Queer Liberation, Not Rainbow Capitalism." I'm pretty excited about this one. See, you can tell that it's important oftentimes to use chalk to plan out your lettering beforehand, because it's so easy to missize things, so having chalk can be really helpful in that case. And once everything's filled in with the paint, the handy thing with chalk is that you can just like you know, use a little damp cloth to clean it up, and it just looks super nice and crisp once that's all done. And I'm just adding little like stripes and designs to make it a little more interesting. You really don't have to be like a crazy talented artist. Like I'm just adding like little cross-shaped stars, little dots, little X's. Like these are not difficult designs to pull off. You can just like be creative and try some simple stuff, and it can look really cool. I'm also making a they them patch that like looks all drippy, and I'm really happy with it. I put a sun and a moon on it and just like little stars. I thought that was like a fun touch. This patch also means a lot to me. It says "Clothing has no gender," and I get all the time that like I dress very feminine, or like I look feminine, or I look like a girl, and I like get mistaken for a girl all of the time, which like I get, and it's like fine, but I just I don't know, this patch just feels extra relevant because I do not get perceived as non-binary, and like non-binary doesn't mean androgynous, and it doesn't mean like between male and female. It just means not in the gender binary. I don't know. I've been like wanting to maybe do a video talking more about like identity and stuff, but I don't know if I'm just like repeating stuff that like everyone knows by this point. But then I don't know. it's different where you are, I guess. I know a lot of people really understand this stuff and like have thought a lot about it, but then sometimes I don't know. I'm really happy with this patch though. I'm doing like a little banner kind of design on it, by just adding these like little squares and little kind of like ruffles. It doesn't look like a perfect banner, but it's like a really easy way to make just like a nice little extra piece of your patch. So here I am cleaning up the patches with the damp paper towel, and as you can see, all the like chalk is just wiping away and it just leaves behind the nice clean patch. Make sure the paint is dry when you do this. And these are all the patches that I made for my dress. You can see them here. I'm happy with them. I think they turned out really cute. And in this next clip, you can see me sewing them on. As before, I tried the dress on and then placed the patches, like decided where they would go while I was wearing it, and used some pins to keep it in place until I'm here with the sewing machine just getting them attached. And like the plaid patches, I kept a couple of these ones open at the top as well, just so some of them would be pockets. And then then I'm adding some safety pins just all around my dress. Safety pins are such a good way to add like a little punk or gothic edge to your clothes with like very little money, because you can get like a pack of safety pins, like all different sizes and stuff at the dollar store, and you know, one pack will go a long way. And you know, some people are worried about it rusting in the wash, so you can always take them out if you're like super worried about that, but I haven't had intense problems with like safety pins rusting. I've had problems with like buttons rusting, like, you know, pins, but not safety pins, weirdly. And then when it's on, I attach a couple of extra little just metallic pieces that I've broken off of like keychains and stuff over the years and collected in a box. Like I'm adding just like little key rings and little things to the safety pins. And then I take some random chains that like came off a belt and attach those to the skirt. And I'm attaching then, oh yeah, I didn't have chains with me, so I just attached a bunch of safety pins together. You could also do this with like paper clips. And then I'm also using a rosary from like my grandma. And then this is like another safety pin chain that I put like a little pentagram thing that I found at the thrift store on. And I did end up playing around a little bit with the placement of the chains and changed it a little bit in the final clips, but this is what it looked like at first, and this is what it ended up with. I am super happy with it. I also made the choker I'm wearing, and that's the next thing I'm going to show you how I made, but in the meantime, this is the dress. I'm so stoked on it. I'm wearing it with just some ripped, layered like tights that I found on sale at my grocery store recently, and I love how the patches look. I love how the corset lace up top looks. I love how this plaid choker with it looks as well. So let's get into that one next. Alright, so then for my plaid choker, basically I'm taking a piece of plaid ribbon that I found at the thrift store and folding it over and measuring it on my neck, and then I cut it a little bit shorter than my neck would be. Then I removed the wire from inside because there was a wire in there that was really pokey, so I just pulled that out. I hem the ribbon on both ends, just with a needle and thread. You don't have to use needle and thread. You could totally just use fabric glue. That would be easier and faster. Once it's been hemmed, I take some thin black ribbon, and after I fold the like plaid part in half, I put the black ribbon kind of in half of the folded ribbon. This way I'll be able to like tie the black ribbon around my neck, but like the red ribbon, which is more scratchy and like kind of too big to tie in like a neat bow, won't be in the way. So I sew the ribbon shut inside of the folded over plaid choker, and then once the ribbon is in, I sew the choker itself in half. Next, I'm just taking my needle and thread, and I'm using some key rings, basically just like ones that you get on keychains. I have had so many keychains over my life that have broken or whatever, so I have the leftover rings, and I'm just sewing them onto the choker in 3 different parts, so it looks like those cool, you know, like O-ring chokers. You could also use just like jewelry rings or like costume jewelry type things. Next, I'm taking the needle and thread and just a little piece of chain. You can just get chain at the thrift store, dollar store, AliExpress, like that kind of stuff. Lots of places will have it. I would definitely recommend investing in some chain if you're into like gothy DIY fashions, because just can add such a cool edge to like a lot of clothes, and you can get quite a bit of it for fairly cheap versus getting like a bunch of little pieces of jewelry that will add up over time. If you make it yourself, it's gonna be much less expensive. I'm using some little studs that I got online to add like these little spikies to the choker. So I'm using my nail scissors to create a hole and then putting the back in and then the front in. These are called tree spikes, and I'm using a little screwdriver to just make sure that they're tight. I think I got these on like studsandspikes.com, like some website like that. You can also get them at like craft stores, but they tend to be more expensive there. Same with fabric stores, they tend to be more expensive, but finding them online, you can get them in bulk for really cheap, and you can get like really cool big spikes as well. Like these are little tiny ones that I got for like mostly like jackets and stuff because I didn't want them to be too heavy, but they work great on the choker in my opinion, and this is what they look like. I put 3 on both sides. And here's the plaid choker with the plaid dress. I think it looks super freaking cute. I'm really excited about how it turned out.
Well, that is all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that maybe it inspired you to do some of your own DIYs. If you do and you like post them on Instagram, I would love to see. Feel free to tag me. And also just like, I know lots of times I get these comments that are like, oh, well, I couldn't wear this because the skirt is too short, or I'm more masculine, or I do this or that. And I want to say that like kind of the idea that I have behind making these videos is more to show the technique and how like I've implemented it personally, but I would love if people just like took the ideas and then put it on their own stuff. So like if the skirts are too short, just do it but on a longer skirt. If it's not your style because you think I dress like femme and you want to do it on pants instead of a dress or a jacket instead of a dress, that's fine, do that. Really the point of these videos is supposed to be more about just like the process, but you know, my style is my style, your style is going to be your style. We're obviously not going to like all the same things, and that's totally okay. I just hope that you are able to, maybe if you like any of the ideas, apply them to your own wardrobe, and if you don't like any of the ideas, that's fine too. You don't have to watch. But thanks for watching anyway. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.